Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, wa lillahi alhamd. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, wa lillahi alhamd. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, wa lillahi alhamd. Alhamdulillah, 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 Allah kafa. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ونعوذ بالله من رياء. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وأجمعين. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. All praise, all thanks, all gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this great month of Ramadan, especially these great 10 days that we are honored for the ritual of Hajj. We can hardly remember Hajj or think about Hajj without mentioning one particular family, and that is the family of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Subhanallah. A family that endured sacrifice after sacrifice. A perfect example for mankind, for us to understand what it means to give up something and sacrifice, not in the sense of qurbani, but sacrifice in terms of our worldly possessions or the things that we love, because sacrifice means giving up something that is dear and loved to you for some other purpose. And this is what Ibrahim alayhi salam and his family did. All we have to do is look back at the life of Ibrahim from the time he was a youngster, when he challenged his own father about his practice of making idols. That ultimately led to what? When he was a young man, his people abandoned him and threw him into a raging fire because of his articulation. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what? Oh fire, right? Be a source of what? Coolness and peace for Ibrahim. It went on later when Ibrahim alayhi salam had a son that he loved so much. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala came to him in a dream. He said, oh, my son, I had a dream, right? Imagine this. I had a dream, and in this dream, he what? I was to sacrifice you. SubhanAllah. And what was the response of his son? Right? We know many of us love our children dearly, and our children love us dearly, but his son said what? Not exactly like I'm saying, being articulate, he said, but if this is a command from Allah, you will find me willing. Allahu Akbar. Our children and us, if we were to come with something like this, they would say, what, did you bump your head? Did you, is something wrong with you? You were going to do what to me? Or I won't give up this. A family that endured sacrifice and tawakkul in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it doesn't stop there. What did Ibrahim alayhi salam do? He took his wife, Hajar, and the son that he loved so much, what? Out to where now the Hajjaj are in Mecca and Medina and Minna and Arafah, all these places, the well of Zamzam, all these because of this Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and this honored family. And what? He took them out to this valley. And what did he do? Not a lot of conversation. Assalamu alaikum to his wife and his child. And they looked and they said, Ya Ibrahim, what is this? Huh? What is it? You're going to leave us in this barren valley? Right? We can't even leave our family at Costco. And when she looked at Ibrahim, she said this, and she said, what? Is this a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Right? And she was much like her son. Even that this was before that, she said, what? You will what? Go. She said what? She more or less said, Salaam alaikum. See you when I see you. See you later. MashaAllah. She say, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would not leave me. Allah will be with me. In the barren desert, when she saw nothing around her, no water, no food, nothing. But she had faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a family of sacrifice. This is why we have the rituals of Hajj, because of this honored family, but as an example and a message for all times, until this time. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to see those messages and understand the sacrifices that were made before us by our predecessors. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم لسائر المسلمين. الحمد لله الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وأجمعين. Sacrifice, Qurbani. Many of us today will be trying to engage in this sunnah if we are able of sacrificing in honor of what took place between Ibrahim and his son, as commanded by Allah. And just a few reminders, if in fact we are engaged in that, this is something that we should take very seriously. And if we do it, we should try to follow the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The purpose of Qurbani is to take this and remember Allah and make it a benefit ta'am for people to eat. And mostly in honor of people who are unable to feed themselves and celebrate as we are celebrating today. As we know, the Qurbani should be distributed in 3 parts. You know, the person who is committing the family to slaughter, another third should be given to our friends and family, and another third given to those who are in need, the poor. There was an incident with the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahabas, and he told them, he said, after 3 days, listen to what I say. After 3 days, there should not remain in your house any of that Qurbani. It should be distributed. So you shouldn't be holding on to a portion that should be distributed. Give it out. Give it out as early as possible so that the people can eat and be happy, because it is supposed to be a time of joy and happiness and love, spreading salams, eating, gifts, seeing a smile on everybody's face. And during this time, this 1 year, that the Sahabas asked the Prophet, Ya Rasulullah, should this be like last year? Now, last year is when he had told them, get rid of the Qurbani quickly. He said, no, not like last year. But the Fuqaha said the reason it was mentioned is because that was a year when people were in distress and needed food, and it was hard times. What do we see now? Hard times, people in distress, people needing food. If you gave your Qurbani for overseas and other places, alhamdulillah, that's permissible. But don't forget home. Right here in our own surroundings, the person that next to you may be hungry, may be in need of meat, may be in need of your assistance, but you can't look at that person and tell. This is why it says, give to those who ask, but give to those who are too shy to ask. You see, we don't always have our people running around asking for the things that they need, but we should know about our brother or our sister, our family, and know if they're in need, you give them without them having to ask, because they're sometimes too shy or too embarrassed to ask. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to perform these things according with the sunnah and the right intentions, and that we would get the great benefit of this day, of these 3 days of celebration, that if the last thing, that if you're going to slaughter, you have up to 3 days to do it. Farms are crowded, and you might not find it, but you have today. And the fuqaha say today, the next day, and the third day. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless everyone during this Eid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of our families, our ummah in Gaza. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ثابت قلوبنا على دينك وثابت في الإيمان, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give firmness in their hearts, in their deen, and in this deen of Islam, so that we may be proper servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa ajma'in. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salatu wa salamu ala al-mursaleen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Eid Mubarak. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.